This is Gemara in Kesubos, Daf at Tzadi Vav. We begin a new parak of Daf together. Today's shir, which is for the first day of Yontif, Tesva of Tishrei, has been generously sponsored as an incredible Schos Elias Neshama for Nachum ben Mordechai. Mirz Hashem, the learning of the entire Chabura should bring Nachum ben Mordechai to an higher in place in Gan Eden Shalmaila, closer to the Kisei HaKavod. And we pick it up on the bottom of Sadi Hey Amid Beis at the Mishnah as we begin the new parak. Almana nizaynes minichsi yisaymin. And Almana, a woman who lost her husband, is supported from where? From the properties of Yisaymin. And in exchange for the fact that she's supported from their properties, Maisi Yodel Shalahem, as we've learned many times, Maisi Yodel, her earnings are given in exchange for the fact that she gets support, she gets basic necessities or food, etc. So says the Mishnah, the Yisayimim are giving her support, so her earnings go to them. But the Mishnah continues, Ve'ein chayavin b'kvurasa, they are not obligated to bury her, which usually a husband has dual obligations, both to support and bury his wife. Here the Yisayimim do not have that obligation to bury their mother. Yarshel Yarshik Subasa Chayavim Bikfurasa. Her Yarshim, those who inherit the Ksuba, are obligated to bury her. So the Mishnah is teaching us that there's an exchange of money, of support, Nizainis, for Maisi Yodel, but there is no obligation for Kfura, and rather her inheritors have the obligation to bury her. So Ibailu begins the Gemara. Nizainis Tanan. Over here we see the critical importance of each and every letter. How do you learn the Mishnah? Does the Mishnah mean nizainis, that it's a din? A widow and almana is supported from the estate of the Yisayimim, and then her earnings go to them, meaning it's absolute, it's a law, it applies in all cases. Or does the Mishnah mean in a scenario that a woman is supported by the Yisayimim, then her earnings go to them? The obvious difference being that it's not absolute. It does not have to be in every scenario. It's only if they choose to support her, do her earnings go to them. And just to point out, before you even see the Gemara's answer, Taisus right away, the first Taisus on the Barak points out that there should not be a vav before the word Maisi Yodel. Because if there was a vav, Maisi Yodel Shelahen, then there would be no question. Because then it would be clear that the Mishnah would be telling you a din of Nizainis, Maisi Yodel, that it's all the same din. So the way that we have the Mishnah without the vav is correct. And says the Gemara, is the Mishnah absolute in all scenarios, or do you say them have the right to choose whether they want to support her and thereby receive her earnings? Says the Gemara, Tanan, Uka'anshe Galil. This is the second half of the coin. Is it, one more time, Yibayilu, Nizainis Tanan or Anizainis Tanan? Nizainis Tanan, is it Nizainis that is absolute, Uka'anshe Galil? And it's like the people in Galil, V'losagi D'la Yavla, and the Yisayimim are not able to choose to not give to her. And Rashi points out that what does that have to do with Anshe Galil? This is that they would write that the Yisayimim are obligated to support her, and therefore her earnings go to them. Or do you learn that it's when the Yisayimim choose to support her, and it's like the people of Yehuda, that they would write in the Ksuba that if the Yarshim would want to support, but therefore it's only if they choose to do so. So a fundamental shayla, how do you learn the Mishnah? And the repercussions are, is there an absolute obligation on the Yisayimim to support the Almana and thereby receive her earnings or not? Says the Gemara, Tashima, on the top of Sadi Vav Amar Aleph, Amar Rav Zera, Amar Shmuel Matzia, Almana La'atzma, the Mitzia. If an Almana finds something, that which she finds, she keeps. It goes to herself. So says the Gemara, if you learn the Mishnah of Hani Zainis, that it's not in all scenarios, then it makes sense that in a scenario that she's not being supported, in such a scenario, she gets to keep her findings. Eliyamrin is Tanan, but if it's every scenario, the Yisayim are obligated to support her, and she's obligated to give them whatever she has, Nave Kibal, then it should be that the Yisayim come in place of her husband, and Ma'abal Matzias Isha Lavayla, and just like when it comes to a husband, that which a woman finds goes to her husband, Achanam Matzias Isha Yarshim, should be the same case. From the Braisa that teaches us that the Mitzia, that which an Almana finds, she keeps, seemingly is a clear proof that the way to read the Mishnah is ha ni zaynes, that the way to read the Mishnah is that it is optional, like the Anshe Yehuda. Says the Gemara, no raya. Really, I'll tell you ni zaynes tanan. Really, I'll tell you that the Mishnah is absolute, like the Anshe Galil. But what was the whole reason that they made the takana that which a woman finds goes to her husband? The reason is that we don't want there to be resentment. What's the resentment? We don't want that a husband should feel my wife finds a diamond ring and I don't get anything to do with it. I sit here and I support her day in and day out, and she doesn't give me her findings. But that's specifically a din by a husband. Hani by the Yarshim to Eva. Says the Gemara, when it comes to the Yarshim, what's the big deal? If there is some Eva, of course, we never like fighting. There's no fundamental issue, there's no marriage at stake, and therefore that would not be a reason to make the takana of the Messiah going to the Yarshim. And therefore there's no raya from this Braisa. So we don't have a raya which way to read the Mishnah. Amar Rav Yisrael Chanina says Rav Yisrael Chanina, Kol Malach Shizaz Al-Bayla Amano Yisrael Yarshim. As basically a first cousin to the Mishnah, we continue with the discussion of what does the Almana have to do to the Yarshim. Says Rav Yisrael Chanina, whatever of Malach that a woman had to do with her husband, the Almana does to the Yarshim Chotz, except which we know these as the Malachis of Chiba, as Rashi points out, which we've seen already, that these are the things that a woman is not allowed to do to her husband. She's not allowed to pour him a drink, make his bed, or wash his hands, legs, and face, because these are the things that bring chiba, that bring love and endearment between people. So these entities, the almana does not have to do to the yarshim. And similarly, Amar Rav Yishua ben Levi, any malacha that a servant does for his master, Talmud Oisel Rabbi, a Talmud, a student does for his rabbi, chutz, except for the Talmud does not have the obligation to untie his rabbi's shoes. And the reason is, Rashi points out, because people who would see would think that this Talmud is an avid, a servant, that's why he's untying his rabbi's shoes. Amar Rava, but Rava qualifies and says, Leia Maran, the Talmud doesn't untie the rabbi's shoes, Ella b'makom she'in makirin isai, only when they're in a place that they don't necessarily know him. And therefore, in such a scenario, there's a concern that people are going to think that he's an avid. In a place that people know this is the student of this rabbi, there is no problem with untying the rabbi's shoes. And Amar Rav Ashi furthermore explains, even in a place where they don't know this person, this is only in a scenario where people do not where the Talmud is not wearing tefillin. But if the Talmud is wearing tefillin, there's no problem with him untying the rabbi's shoes. Why not? Because an Eved does not wear tefillin, and the mere fact that he's wearing tefillin shows everyone that he's not an Eved. And continuing on a similar vein, Amar Rav Chia bar Abba, we're 8 lines from the wide lines. First one line is bar Abba. Amar Rav Yechanan Kol Amanei Talmidei Milasham Shai Kilu Manei Mimenu Chesed. A Rebbe should not stop his Talmud from serving him. Anytime a Rebbe prevents his Talmud from serving him, is as if he's withholding kindness from the Talmud. Shnemar, the pasuk says, "Lamas amareyu chesed." Says the pasuk, you withhold kindness from your friend. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Amar, "Af b'reg min Yerushalayim." You remove Yerushalayim from the Talmud if you don't let him serve you. Shnemar, v'yiras shakai ya'azoiv, and the fear. And he abandons the fear of Hashem. So we see the importance of the Talmud serving the Rebbe allowing the Talmud to serve him. Anything that would not cause him to question the lineage of the Talmud, like untying the Rebbe's shoes. And moving back to the topic of our Mishnah of the widow and the Yarshim, 3 lines from the wide lines. Amar Rav Elazar Almana shetafsa metaltim b'mzayneiseh ma shetafsa tafsa. If an almana went and grabbed metaltlin, grabbed movable items for her support, that which she grabbed, she's allowed to keep. And we do not remove from her, as Rashi points out. We do not remove from her that which she took. And Rashi continues and explains, even though we paskin that really the almana does not get supported from movable items and only from karka, but if she grabbed it, then she has the right to keep it. And continues the Gemara on the last narrow line, that which she grabs, she keeps. Says Rav Dimi, there was a story with this daughter-in-law of Rav Shabtai, she grabbed a sack full of money, and they didn't take it away from her, reaffirming and proving the din that we just said, that even though she's not really supposed to take metaltalin, if she does, she keeps it. Continues the Gemara 3 lines into the white lines. Amar Avina, Lo Yamar Nala Mizoini. This din that which she took, she keeps, is only when it comes to support of a ksuba. But if she grabbed metaltalin in payment of her ksuba, then mafkina mina, we do indeed take it away from her. With regard to the ksuba, she's not allowed even b'diavad to take metaltalin. So says the Gemara Maskal Mar Baravashi on the 4th white line. What's the reason? It's because it didn't buy ksuba. Is that she only gets paid from land and not from movable items. And saying it's not as we already pointed out from Rashi. Now the Gemara hones in on this detail that really for mezainis, for support, it's the same din. That's the only thing you're supposed to get from karka and not metaltalin. Rather, the truth is that the Gemara suggests that it's true. Really, she only gets l'chatchila from mekarka, even for mezainis. But if she grabbed, then she let her keep it. So says the Gemara, the same din should be by the ksuba. That what she grabs, she keeps. Why is there any difference in ksuba and mezainis and support? This is what they indeed said in the name of Rava. Like you said, that the same din is by mezainis, the same din is by ksuba. That both of them are from karka and metaltalin, both of them are l'chatchila you do not get, but b'diavad you're allowed to take. Continues the Gemara, 5 lines from the bottom of the Amid. Amar Rav Yechon Meshveder Rav Yisi ben Zimra Almana sheshasa shtayim v'shol shana v'lo tibay mezainis. And Almana, her husband, dies, and she waits 2 or 3 years and does not claim any support. Ibda mezainis. That's it. She loses her right to claim support. She can't come 5 years later and say, hey, what's going on? I need to be supported. If she did not say anything for 2 or 3 years, she's up the creek. Ask the Gemara, the obvious kasha, what she loses it after 2 years? What's the 3rd year? Explains the Gemara, 3 lines from the bottom, like kasha. Kan baniya, kan ba'ashira. When it comes to an ani, that is 2 years. When it comes to an ashir, she is able to stand longer, she has more money, and therefore it is 3 years. Inami kam beprutza kam betznua. Says the Gemara, another differentiation. One is by a tznua, she's more of a refined girl, and therefore we only give her 2 years. Therefore, if she waits 2 years, it's not a mechila. Whereas if she is a prutza, she's more outgoing, then we give her longer to come to Bezdin and collect her mizainis. Amar Rava. Says Rava, 2 lines from the bottom, and Lamar Nelamafreya. Avlaba Yeshla. Says Rava, 1 second. This whole discussion that she doesn't get her mizainis, and I said she's up the creek, that's only if she wants back pay. That's only she comes along and says, hey, hello, I want support for the last 2, 3, 5 years. But if she's showing up now, she's saying, I want to be supported in the future, of course, she has that right, as does every almana. So, Bai Rav Yechon says the Gemara of Yechon asked the following shayla on the last line of Sadivav Amud Aleph. A fundamental shayla we always have to know upon whom is the burden of proof. So I asked Rav Yechon, if we have Yisayimim and the Yisayimim claim they paid her, we gave her money for the support, and she says, I don't know what you're talking about. I did not get anything. Who is the one who has the burden of proof? We turn over to Sadivavam Beis. Says the Gemara, Nechsi b'cheskes yasmi kaimi v'alamana lavi raya. Do we say that the properties are in the possession of the Yasim? And therefore, who is the one being moitzi? Who is the one that's taking away? Therefore, the woman is the one that's taking away. Therefore, she has to bring the raya. Or maybe no, the nechasim are really in the possession of the almana. And therefore, the Yisayimim have to bring the raya. So who is the one that is the burden of proof? Says the Gemara 3 lines down, said the Vavim Beis Tashema, the Tani Levi, Almana goes much like this is Ali Yisayima, Lahavi raya. Before she gets remarried, then we consider that the property is in her possession, and then the Yisayimim have to bring the proof that they already paid her. In this case, when she gets married, then Allaha, Lahavi raya, then she has to be the one to bring the proof. And Rashi points out in the first narrow line, why? Because once she gets married, the properties are no longer considered to be in her rishos. Amar Rav Simi bar Rashi, this is not such a simple point. You said it has to do with the fact whether she's married or not. It says Rav Simi bar Rashi, Kitanoi. In truth, this is a machlokes Tanoim. Says the Brais, Meicharis v'keisaves ilu mizaynais, bacharti v'liksuva macharti. A widow, an almana, has let her sell the estate, and she has the right. Elu, this sale is the mezayni macharti. I'm selling for my support. Elu, and this sale, iksuma macharti. Devri Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yesi Aimer, meichares v'kaiseves tam. She could just sell it. She does not have to write for what she is selling it. V'chein kacha yafa. And indeed, and in this way, says Rabbi Yossi, by not specifying what she's selling it for, she has a great koyach, a great strength. So says the Gemara, how does this have to do with who has the chazaka and who has to bring the proof? Explains the Gemara, according to Rav Yehuda, that she has to articulate and spell out in the document for what she's selling the property. Rav Yehuda holds in a chasim are in the possession of the Yisayim, and therefore the Alman is the one that has to be in the proof. Rav Yossi argues, and he says no. Lo ba'ile says Rav Yossi, you don't have to spell out why you're selling it. Why? Because she, the Almana who is selling this piece of land, is assumed to have the property in her possession, and therefore so suggests the Gemara that this machlekes Rav Yossi and Rav Yehuda, whether if an almana is selling property, she has to articulate and speak out why she's selling something. Seemingly, this is the machlekes whether it's the nechasim are considered to be in her rishos or in the Yisayimim's rishos. Says the Gemara, slow down. Mimai, how do you know that this machlekes Rav Yossi and Rav Yehuda is indeed a machlekes whether the possession property is in her or the Yisayimim's rishos? Says the Gemara, really, I'll tell you, everyone agrees that the property is in her rishos. And therefore the Yisayimim are always the one to bring the proof. For Rav Yehuda, so why does Rav Yehuda say that she should spell out, she should articulate exactly why she's selling the item? If it's considered that the property is in her rishos, why does she have to say, I'm selling this for my mezainis, I'm selling this for my ksuba? Eitza taiva kamashlan. You know why? It's an eitza. We're giving you good advice, says Rav Yehuda. Rav Sanusa. We don't want people to call her a gluttonous woman, a woman that's eating so much. And look at Rashi at the end of the narrow lines. Rashi says, someone who sees that she's selling all the lands are going to think that she's selling it all for food. And they're going to think, what in the world is this woman eating so much money for food? And therefore, Rav Yehuda is giving you an eitzah. Why? It will look good in the eyes of people, but not necessarily because the property is considered to be in her possession. Says the Gemara, if you're not going to say this, if you're not going to say that indeed the machlokes Rav Yossi and Rav Yehuda is not this point, then Rav Yechanan's shaila, whether the Yisayimim, whether the Almana brings the proof, really could have been answered up from the Mishnah. What does the Mishnah say? This is the next Mishnah. This is the Mishnah on tomorrow's Daf and Amud Beis. Says the Mishnah, she's allowed to sell for Mezaynais Shaloi bebezdin without asking Bezdin. V'ksuba v'kaiseves. And what does she write? Ilu Mezaynais b'charti. She doesn't need a Bezdin. She sells it and she writes, I'm selling this for my Mezaynis. So says the Gemara, If it's a proof by what she wrote, we would have a raya from the Mishnah. The Mishnah seemingly teaching us that she should write why she's selling a lemezainis, similar to Rav Yehuda. And then the Mishnah would seemingly be a proof that the property is b'cheskas of the assignment. So what are you going to have to answer me? You're going to have to tell me that the Mishnah is not a raya. Why not? Here too also it's an Eitz Taiva. So says the Gemara, it must be that we don't really have a raya from the Mishnah. And if we don't have a raya from the Mishnah, we also do not have a raya from Rabbi Yehuda as to whether the Nechasim were considered in her possession or in the assignment. Inami, says the Gemara, I'll give you another reason why the machlekes of Yisrael and Rabbi Yehuda is not necessarily our machlekes. To Kuli Amalek Sev Chasis Yasmi Kaimi, really, because everyone agrees that their properties are considered to be in the possession of the Yasim. By no time with the Rabbi Yasi, and why did Rabbi Yasi say that she does not have to articulate why she's selling it? Kedabayo Kashisha. So Rabbi Yasi holds like Abayi Kashisha, Damar Abayi Kashisha, Mashal Rabbi Yasi L'madav Daima. Says Abayi Kashisha, what is Rabbi Yasi's case? That she does not have to speak out why she's selling something comparable to. Someone's on their deathbed and they write, give 200 zuz to a certain person, Baal Chayvi, who I owe money to. And the people, the Yisayimim, I shouldn't say the Yisayimim, the person didn't die yet, the potentially Yisayimim, potentially Yarshim, give away 200 zuz. What's the halacha? Ratz b'chayv nalan, ratz b'matav nalan. The halacha is, the Baal Chayv is allowed to say, I either took it for my chayv, or I took it as a matana. We turn over for a moment to tomorrow's Daf Sadi Zayin and Aleph and explains the Gemara. In b'matana nalan lo koyach lo kach yofe koychay. Now, if the Baal Chayv takes it as a matana, his koyach is not great. Why? Because then he can still collect the chayv. So similarly, Rav Yasi says that it's better to leave it undesignated. It's better to not say why you're giving it away. The reason being, so then you could collect at a later date. And we'll conclude, if you look at this tab Rashi speaks out that according to Rav Yasi, he's explaining that it's better for them, similar to Eitz Taiva, to leave it undefined. But really everyone could agree that the Nechasim are b'cheskas Yasmi of the Yisayimim. And we'll pick it up tomorrow from Daf Sadi Zayin, in which we're going to discuss further the Almana selling the property and how she does such.